Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the I Am Magic foundation and concealer from JUVIA'S place. I know that there is currently controversy swirling around them. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I have an idea that may or may not come to fruition for a future video dealing with controversial brands and cancel culture and the whole bit. But for today, we're just going to do a good old-fashioned wear test and review. Let's do this. Before we get into the actual application, I'm going to give you some information, starting with the foundation. If you can hear a little background noise, that's my laptop. I'm using that instead of my cell phone just because it's easier. So I've brought up their website. This is 30 milliliters, so a standard fluid ounce, and it retails for $20 US. The packaging, as you can see, is a little squeeze tube with a little flip top, and it just comes out like so. There are 42 shades available in the range. It's interesting to note that the default picture that pops up is of their darkest shade. As well, their shade numbering starts with the deepest and then works its way towards the lightest, which is pretty much opposite of any other brand that I've seen at any rate. One thing I will note with their website is that at the time that I made my purchase, there was no description available as to what the shades were, so I was kind of going into it blind. There is now a shade selection tab available on the website, as well as descriptions of each individual shade. With respect to the actual finish, this is a full coverage foundation with a velvet matte finish. The website says that it has good wearability and it lasts all day. Now, moving on to the concealer, this retails for $14 US on their website, and it has 10 milliliters in the tube. That is akin to the Tarte Shape Tape, which also has 10, and it's 6 milliliters more than the Jouer Essential High Coverage Concealer, which only has 4 and a little bit. These are my two favorite high coverage concealers, so we'll see how this one stacks up to them because it is much more affordable than the other two options. There are 24 shades available in the line, and again, when I made my purchase, there were no descriptors available as to what each one was, so I was going based off of swatch pictures and dumb luck. I picked up the shade 20. I think 22 probably would have been better just based on the description available. 20 is for medium skin tones. I tend to be light, sometimes edging towards medium when I have a good tan going on. But regardless, I have worn it a number of times and it's not so dark as to be unworkable. So again, not put off by the shades that I selected. Although if I'd had the benefit of the descriptions, they probably would have been just a couple shades lighter. So let's move on to the application now that I've shared the information with you. Now, if you're new to my channel and don't know, I have normal leaning towards dry skin. I don't really have any oiliness going on, but I also don't have dry patches. So I've got fairly average run-of-the-mill skin. However, I tend not to gravitate towards full coverage matte foundations simply because they often look too flat on my skin. So what I'm going to do for primer is use one that does infuse a little bit more radiance back into my skin just to balance the foundation out a little bit. So what I'm going to use is from Annabelle, and this is their Enlighten Refreshing Perfecting Primer. It doesn't blur anything, it doesn't really mattify, it just adds a hint of radiance to the skin. Alright, so there we go. That just brightens up the skin a little bit without adding a ton of shimmer or radiance to it. I don't want to go too glowy because I still want you to be able to see the actual finish of this foundation. So now we're going to go in with the foundation, and I have the shade Capri, which is number 630. So you can see, just before blending it all out, just how much coverage it offers. So I'm going to finally remember this time. I'm just going to put it on half to begin with, just so you can see what the difference is. I don't have a lot of blemishes going on or anything that I really need to cover up. I do have some freckles on my nose. I've got a little, like, I don't know if it's a sunspot. I just call it like a really aggressive, assertive freckle over here. But other than that, I don't have a lot of discoloration or anything. My biggest issue is under my eyes and the shadows that are there. So we'll see between the foundation and the concealer just how well it performs to cover that up. All right, so there we go with it on obviously half of my face and the other half bare. Like I have some freckles and whatnot down here as well, in like one beauty spot, I guess, and it covers it right up. And then on the half of my nose that has it, unless I knew where to look, I wouldn't spot the freckles either. So it does really offer a ton of coverage. My under eyes still definitely need concealer going on, so I can't just rely on the foundation, but that is not unusual for me. It blends out quite nicely. Across my forehead, I was seeing bounce marks from the sponge, so I just kind of had to work on it a little bit more than I normally have to, but now that I have done that, I don't see any bounce marks at all on my face, so I'm cool with that. All right, time to do the other half and then we'll move on to concealer. All right, now on to the concealer. So this has a nice big doe foot to it. It reminds me very much of the Tarte Shape Tape. There it is. But it doesn't have the same nice smell that the Tarte Shape Tape does. In fact, these products don't really have any scent to them at all, which is kind of nice. I'd rather have no scent than like a really overpowering or bad scent. So again, I'm just gonna do one eye first and then I'll even it out after. I've got such deep set eyes that I can't just rely on the sponge. I have to go in with a brush. The description online would suggest that I should have gone for 2 shades lighter than what I did, but frankly, I'm kind of happy with this one. Maybe it's because the foundation's a little bit deeper than what I would typically wear as well, but they work really well together. And I think if it was much lighter, it would just look really spotlighty and it would be a little too obvious for my personal preference. So overall, I'm happy with the shades that I selected. Also, the coverage is good. I think it's the 1-2 punch of the foundation and the concealer, to be honest, but it does have really nice coverage. I'm not seeing like the really deep purpley blue under my eyes as I have over here, particularly on that inner corner. It really quite lightens it up, again, without being like beacons of light on my face. And again, it blends out really nicely. Like it's a nice product. It is a very nice product. It is on the liquidy side. It's not a very thick concealer, which frankly I like a little bit better because I'm normal to dry, and in the winter definitely more dry than during the summer. I don't want something that's super emollient under my eyes because then it tends to crease and slide around, and by the end of the day it's just not there. So I definitely think that I need to set it, but I like the consistency of it. All right, I'm gonna do this one here. I'm going to set it with my Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, come back, show you what it looks like once it's all said and done, and then I'll do a check-in at the end of the day so we see how it wears. I'll be right back. Okay, and that is what it looks like once it has been set with powder. Obviously it looks weird because I don't have any blush, foundation, eyeshadow, anything on aside from foundation and concealer, but rewind to the beginning of the video when I didn't have any of this on and you will see the improvement. So what I can say is that I can feel it on my skin, okay? So there is a bit of thickness to the foundation. It's not heavy, it's not greasy feeling, there's nothing like that, but this isn't a super liquidy foundation like you would see with a sheer to medium coverage. So just be aware of that. It's not a complaint, it's just a fact. But we shall see how it wears. Now, spoiler, I have worn this a few times, so this isn't just a first impressions, and I have enjoyed it. But I am going to do a check-in at the end of the day so that you can see exactly how it looks after a full day of wear. I will see you then. Hey again, so it is now 12 hours later, time to check in and see how things are looking. So I have my mirror off to the side here, and from this distance, don't really see anything to complain about. There's like a little bit gone from underneath the eyes, but overall the face is looking good. So now it's time to go a little bit closer. When I move closer, I can definitely see that there's some separation happening across my nose, and that things have started to separate around my chin as well. Now, I do often get that, especially around the mouth, regardless of the foundation, because eating and wiping my mouth, all that kind of thing, it just naturally wears off more there. But the nose is quite mottled, and there's a little bit of foundation sort of pooling around in between my eyes. Overall, not bad though, especially considering I've had it on for like 12 hours at this point. So, the concealer, like I said, it is a bit rubbed off from underneath my eyes. I'm trying to recall. Perhaps I was like sweaty today. I don't think I was though. We had a pretty chill day, so I don't think that's it. And it has sort of pooled a little bit into the fine lines that I have going on under there. But again, it's holding up about as well as my Tarte Shape Tape and the JUVIA Essential High Coverage ones do as well. So I'm not miffed at that. Now I'm going to turn my lights down a little bit and bring it in a little bit closer just so that you can maybe see what it is that I'm talking about, so you don't just have to take my word for it. So I'm not sure if you can actually see it. Like, I'm looking at the monitor now, but I can't really see from there. But there is some separation going on right around this area. And then, like I said, it's kind of like slid down and gathered in here. Again, that does happen with other foundations as well. And then along here, you can see there's a little bit of separation going on in there as well. And then that's what I keep talking about under the eyes there. And then it is sort of trapped in the fine lines, which as the years go by are becoming less and less fine. Such is life. All right, back you up. So overall, I do think that these are good products. I know there is some separation going on right now. That's not entirely unusual. However, it does make me think that if you have oily skin, you're probably going to see that much more breakdown. Because I don't have particularly oily skin, so if it's separating on me, I have to think that it's going to separate more on people who do have oily skin or combo skin. So that's the caution that I would give on that front. With respect to it being a matte finish, when I first put it on, it does look very flat, but then of course going in with contour, bronzer, highlighter, all that good stuff helps to revive my face to make it look a little less mask-like. But I can still see that it is quite matte on my skin right now. So it's kind of that weird combination where if you have oilier skin, you really might like the finish on this because it is that nice matte finish, but I think it's going to break up a little bit quicker on your face if you do have oily skin. So there's that. But for normal to dry skin, I do think that this is going to be a nice long wearing product. So of the two, if I was to pick a winner, it would be the concealer. I find that this is nice and lightweight under my eyes, but still offers a good amount of coverage. The foundation certainly offers high coverage. That claim, I think, is spot on. I find a lot of times foundations that say full coverage are really more medium, and then you have to layer it up a ton. This one requires no layering whatsoever. The only reason why it's not going to be an instant favorite for me is because it is a little bit heavier in feeling on my skin, and I don't tend to gravitate personally towards full coverage. I just don't find that I really need it. if I'm going out for an evening or an event, something like that. Not that I really tend to go to many events, it might be like once a year, honestly. This is the kind of foundation that I would reach for in that situation, but for everyday wear, I tend to go sheer, maybe medium, depending, frankly, on the time of month. So this is one I certainly don't regret the purchase, and I will use it again, but I just don't see myself reaching for it over and over. Whereas the concealer, absolutely. I do think that it ranks right up there with the Charte. I keep calling it Charte. Oh my gosh. With the Tarte Shape Tape. I do find that it is on par with that, but it is for a lower price point for the same amount of product. So also, I don't tend to call this one Charte. So there's that. On that note, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I do think that Juvia's Place has two very good products. I just think that the foundation, little bit of an iffiness to it, particularly depending on your skin type. So go into your purchase with that in mind, and specifically search out reviews from people who have oily skin, because that's not anything I have ever dealt with, so I really don't know what impact it has on things like foundation wear time and all of that. So, having said all of those things, I am going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.